Hello everyone, here are the latest market news on September 2nd, 2020. Google and Apple to release COVID-19 notifications. Google and Apple Inc. of Alphabet Inc. on Tuesday announced a new system that will allow public health authorities to use smartphones to track contacts without having to build an app. The new system, dubbed Exposure Notifications Express, will allow health officials to send a small configuration file to Apple and Google. The two tech companies will then use the file to set up systems that phone owners can choose to determine if they have been around someone who has tested positive for the new coronavirus. In the case of the iPhone, the new version of the iOS operating system released on Tuesday will alert users if a local health exposure notification system is available and allows users to customize it without downloading any new apps. On Android devices, users will also receive a request from the phone's operating system, but they still have to download an auto-generated app. Germany recovers faster than expected. The German economy has been in a recovery phase since May, so optimism is growing among companies and their management, said German Economy Minister Peter Altmaier in an interview with Deutsche Welle. Germany's economic performance in the first half of 2020 was not as negative as experts feared. According to Altmaier, the deepest point of the crisis has already been passed. However, according to him, the current economic situation in Germany gives hope that the second lockdown can be avoided. The country's GDP in 2020 will decrease by 5.8%. A fall of 6.3% was expected in April. At the same time, in 2021, according to the new forecast, GDP will increase by 4.4% against the previously assumed 5.2%. One of the reasons for the deterioration of the forecast, Altmaier called the difficult situation in the world economy, associated in particular with the consequences of the pandemic in the United States, which negatively affect the indicators of German experts. Oil continues to rise in price. Benchmark crude prices are rising during trading on Wednesday as investors await the release of the U.S. Department of Energy's weekly report on the country's oil, gasoline, and distillate reserves. The cost of November futures for Brent oil on the London Stock Exchange ICE futures by 8:20 Moscow time on Wednesday is $45.96 per barrel, which is 38 cents, 0.83% higher than the closing price of the previous session. Because of the previous trades, these contracts rose in price by 30 cents, 0.7%. Futures for WTI crude oil for October in electronic trading of the New York Mercantile Exchange by this time also increased in price by 38 cents, 0.89%, to $43.14 per barrel. On Tuesday, the value of these contracts increased by 15 cents, 0.4%. Australia's economy goes into recession. Australia's GDP in the second quarter fell 7% from the first quarter, according to the country's Bureau of Statistics. The decline in GDP was observed for the second quarter in a row. Over the previous 3 months, it amounted to 0.3%. Thus, the Australian economy entered a recession for the first time in 30 years, writes Trade and Economics. At the same time, the quarterly drop in GDP became the maximum since the beginning of observation in 1959. Analysts were expecting a smaller decline of 5.9%, according to data from Trade and Economics. In new terms, the country's economy decreased by 6.3%. Consumer spending in the last quarter fell by 12.1% compared to the previous 3 months. In the first quarter, they decreased by 1.2%. At the same time, expenses and services fell by 17.6%.